Hi, welcome to Ted's Modeling Technique. I've come up with my own way of making the heat staining colors on a header, and hopefully this shows up with this light. I'm using, instead of paint, I'm using stainless steel and a heat source, and to get the real colorations of heat staining. And I'm modeling it after the original piece in the kit. Now the only thing I couldn't do, I've tried and tried and tried, the funny car header, as you see here, reduces down in size right at the end. Now I can do that in aluminum because they make the right size tubing, and I can make the 90s, but I can't get the heat staining on aluminum like I can on stainless steel. Now stainless steel, the next size down, is too small to reduce appropriately here. So I made this all one size all the way down, and I see the newer funny cars actually do look like they have a one-piece header going all the way down. They don't make this transition. What we're going to do is we're going to change this little flange. This flange goes on the engine block, and then the header would glue onto that. And what we're going to do is we're going to drill those 4 holes out, put pins in there so that the pin would actually hold the each individual header. And you can see here where the flange is on this engine and the headers are in place. I took the stock header from the kit and cut each exhaust pipe separately. They're all different lengths. If you'll notice this one here, this would be on the back side of the engine. This one is longer than this one, and it also has an angle. If you look at the way the header matches the flange, it's on a slight angle, whereas the two in the center are pretty straight. See the difference? So I cut these off so I could get some better measurements and also get that angle correct. And so what I did was I numbered them just to make sure I didn't cross them up. You're not going to need much in the way of tools or material. This bender is the most important thing. This is made by Dubro, catalog number 785, and it's the smallest bender I could find. It says it's for 1/8 brass and aluminum tubing. I know it goes up to 2 1/8 down to 3/32, and we're going to be bending stainless steel. So this bender isn't really made for this, but it works. And then we also have this K&S 7111, which is 1/8 round stainless steel tubing. And we're going to need a torch. I've got a couple here. This one is by Radio Shack. There's a name on it here. There's Radio Shack, little butane torch. This one's really nice. It runs around $20. I've had this for several years. I looked online, they still have it available. And here's another one that I've had for a long time. Couldn't figure out who made the thing, and found out it's a Trademark Tools self-igniting refillable butane micro torch. Now it's nice. It holds a lot of butane and really has a hot, strong flame. I use these for soldering up electrical fittings on 1-to-1 cars, and it works out just right for what we're doing here. This is what we want to end up with. This one's been cut down, so it does look a little bit smaller. But what we want to do, open this up, and the tube just goes in here. Now if you can see how far in this is going, I've got it maybe halfway between the edge of this roller and the edge of this plastic piece. Now I just found that that's about as short a 90 that you're going to be able to make. You could push it all the way out to the end. You could even push it beyond, but you're just wasting this because it's going to end up being cut off anyway. So if you just pull it back to this point, it's stuck in there. You just pull it back to roughly halfway in here. That's going to give you a pretty short 90. And then grab both ends of this, and I hold it up at the end here because I didn't want to take a chance on bending this aluminum tubing they have for the handles, because this really isn't made for stainless steel. So just hold it up here and then just give it a bend. You know, just kind of work it. It's not too bad. Work it down and until we see we've got a 90. And what you look for is this piece. Matter of fact, if you can look up in here, that has pulled back in there a little bit, not too bad. So we still have a lot of tubing to grip on. Otherwise, it's going to egg shape the end, or it's just going to slip right off. Anyway, so that piece that's hanging down is parallel with this handle. So if you just kind of eyeball it, we can even use the grid in the background here and see if this tubing is about a 90-degree angle. Looks a little shy. We'll give it just a little touch here. Let's take it out and see how that looks. And well, that's pretty good. That looks like a pretty good 90. So then we're going to be drilling this out, and we'll talk about that later. Just make sure you use lots of oil when you're drilling it, and then go up one drill size at a time, because stainless steel is really tough. You're going to be breaking drill bits. Anyway, so we're going to be cutting this down and then heating it up. So let's move on. I put two that I've already bent and cut next to this long one which I just bent, just to kind of get an idea if these 90s are the same, because it's going to look kind of funny if they're not. And you'll notice the end of this one we just bent is longer, and but this is about as short as we're going to get that. You might be able to get it a fraction shorter, but it doesn't make any difference because we're going to have to cut this off anyway. Cut this off on both ends to fit, and then we're going to apply the heat. This stainless steel is hard to cut. You're not going to be able to hold it and just cut it with a little saw, especially not with an X-Acto knife. I've got the Dremel tool here, and I have one of their smaller cutoff wheels, and it happens to be, see, is there a number on here? Heavy duty number 420. And they do make larger ones, but you know, this is too thick. It's going to make too big a cut. If you can see the difference here between these two wheels, this is going to be a little more accurate. So I've got it cinched up in this little soft jaw that I've got into a big vise. This thing isn't going to move on me. And I'm going to cut the small end off before I cut the larger end off, because this way I've got a little bit more to hold. So I'm going to saw this thing off and we'll take a look at it. Here's a mock-up engine with the kind of a completed header flange. You can see those two outside 1/16 inch styrene rods are shorter because the two outside pipes are going to be coming in on an angle. Now the two center supports are 1/16 inch stainless steel, just for a little extra added support. So this is ready for the pipes to go onto and probably epoxy into place. And here's an example of a couple of pipes I heated up practicing. You know, you just can't get any more realistic than really heat stained pipes. This is the one that I just cut up here a minute ago, and you can see I've got the end opened up quite a bit here compared to the other end, which is the standard. And I started with a number 51 drill bit, which is 67 thousandths, just to get it going. And then I increased it one drill bit size at a time, all the way up to a number 42, which is 93 thousandths. And I might even be able to get away with another 1 or 2 increment. I don't want to go too far, make that wall too thin, and then have the bit slip out and damage it, and I'd have to start all over again. So let's heat it up. I'm ready to go here. You can see I put a little piece of aluminum rod in there. I think this was like an 1/8 inch, just to hold it. You don't want to use a piece of wood. It could get too hot and burn up on you. You don't want to use an alligator clip or something that's going to scratch the stainless steel, because you know, you're not going to be able to polish this thing out. So you don't want any scratches in it while you're drilling or anything else. Cutting it, you know, you want it to be pristine. So I've got a little piece in there just so I can hold it. Let's, and you can see here I've got, hold this thing here, put that tip right inside there, just like the exhaust valves opening up, letting all those hot gases out. And the hottest part of this flame is the very tip. So you want to get that right to the edge of that, maybe even inside just a little bit to get that heat down further. You can see how red hot that's getting. and that's giving us the heat stain markings, you know, further in. So let's see, a little bit more. I think that's going to look pretty good. I was experimenting with maybe a little bit, you know, higher flame to get that down there, maybe a little bit further. I'm not sure it really made much difference. Sure looks like it glows quicker, doesn't it? And so far, as many as I've done, I haven't melted any yet. So I think that's a good thing. So yeah, I think once that cools, it's not going to look so dark, and you're going to get all those colors in there. I think that's a go. And the best way to trim these edges off, you could use a file. It's going to take a long time. This is going to be much quicker. Get a nice flat surface to go against to flatten the sides. And on those two end pieces, you're going to want a little bit of an angle, depending on which end you're using, which side of the car. So keep that in mind. Here are some photos of the finished pieces. They're all cut to size. You can see the ends are drilled out. I will experiment and see if I can drill the ends out just a little bit more. And you can see the coloration on here. And it looks pretty good. I'm going to work on the other side next and get a complete engine going here. Thanks for viewing, and appreciate your comments and your subscriptions.